Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. And as always, I'm your host, Jesse Tapia. And we have a bit of a AFC Championship or AFC NFC Championship recap special type of episode today. We have the big boss man. He runs the MMA podcast. Go listen to that one too. We have Tate on.
How y'all doing?
Yeah. So Tate, I remember before we got into it doing the podcast, he was telling me that, I could be the boss for this show. And I was like, that's a lot of power. But I said, as soon as we step out these doors, I'm not the boss anymore. So I'm going to be nice to Tate on the show. It's going to be a fun one, though.
He's just saying that because I host an MMA show and he knows I'll choke him out.
All right. So we had the Jags versus Pats in the AFC Championship game, as you all know. And then we had the Vikings and Eagles in the NFC Championship game. All right. One thing I learned from the Patriots game is that you don't trust them as far as talking injuries. All right. It was the end of the world. Tom Brady, he's got stitches on his hand and he's questionable. Bill Belichick saying he's not sure if he's going to start, all that. And Tom Brady comes out and pretty much becomes like a surgeon on this number one defense in Jacksonville. It was just ridiculous. I already saw after the game, too, they were talking about they're not sure if Gronk's going to be able to play in the Super Bowl because of his concussion. Concussions are serious, so there might be some truth to it, but it's like, yeah, Bill Belichick's already starting the mind games. But let's get into some stats. I'll tell you pretty much how everyone did, and then me and Tate will do some analysis for the game. All right, so like I said, New England won this one 24-20. You had Blake Bortles who, you know what? Yeah, Blake Bortles, he completed 23 out of his 36 passes, 293 yards, 1 touchdown. Leonard Fournette with 24 carries, 76 yards, 1 touchdown there. As far as receiving the ball, Leonard Fournette really wasn't much of a factor this time. He only had 2 catches for 13 yards. TJ Yeldon, someone I've really liked so far in these playoffs. He had 5 carries for 25 yards. And then finally some good receiving numbers from Jacksonville. You had Allen Hurns with 6 receptions, 80 yards. Corey Grant, he's going to be watch out for him. He's going to be a good one going forward. He had 3 receptions, 59 yards, and then Marquise Lee had 4 receptions for 41 yards. For New England, obviously, like I said, Tom Brady, 26 out of 38 throwing the ball, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns, only sacked 3 times. That's pretty good considering that Jacksonville does have the best pass rush in the game, I think at least. Deion Lewis had 9 carries for 34 yards, and then you had Brandon Cooks, who surprised me, 6 receptions for 100 yards. Danny Amendola just pretty much played off of his performance from last week. He had 7 receptions for 84 yards and then 2 touchdowns. And Rob Gronkowski wasn't a factor before he got hurt, but he had 1 catch for 21 yards before that. All right, so everyone knows why I picked the Jags, obviously. Tate, why don't you tell us why you picked the Pats?
All right, so first off, as we have been arguing about this all week on who we thought was going to win, and I am not a Patriots fan, but when you look at the game, this is before the game ever happened. It's one of those things where you always got to look at the intangibles. And the intangibles are you got a team with a great coach, a all-world quarterback, and then a team, the most important thing of all is they've done this before a lot. So the extra pressure, the build-up of getting ready for the game, handling the media, those intangible things, that's one of the things that Jacksonville just didn't have, and the Patriots had in spades. So I really thought it was a no-brainer in my book. I wanted as an analyst, since I don't host the football show, I used to come on here as a a fill-in every once in a while. But since I don't have anyone in the game, I just looked at it as I didn't want the Patriots to win. But when I look at it, everything fits for them winning the game. And so the game pretty much went the way I thought it would go.
All right, yeah, and I understood all that. And as for the people who listen to the show, last week that I was pretty much the George. There's that one picture of George Washington. He's on the boat. I don't know what it's called. I probably should since it's
crossing the Delaware.
Yeah, he's on the thing.
Yeah, he's crossing the Delaware.
Right,
yes,
I'm George Washington. As far as last week, talking about how you don't need a quarterback to. As far as like Tom Brady, it's not Tom Brady versus Blake Bortles or anything like that. Tom Brady isn't going to be able to beat the Jags. They have the better team. I was leading that boat the entire time last week, and you know what Tom Brady did to me? He told me, watch this, and he did it once again. All right. Going into that game, I mean, Jacksonville was up, what was it at first? They were up 7-3, then 14-3, and then that first half touchdown that New England got at the end of the game, like I said, at the end of the first half, that's where I was kind of worried. And that's where, when we were talking the other day, that's where you said you pretty much knew New England was coming back, right?
Right. Well, when I was watching the game, I knew the game was over at halftime. But when you say you don't need a quarterback, I agree with you on that part. But the big difference is how a team handles pressure. And the New England Patriots handle pressure so much better than everyone else. And then when you look at the game, in the pressure moments, the Patriots really came through, where you look at it and you say, right before halftime, the pressure's on, New England's falling behind, they get that little touchdown in there to take a little pressure relief off of them right before halftime. When the pressure's on, the New England Patriots, not just Brady, but the team as a whole, handles pressure better than anyone else. And I thought Jacksonville, which was a much better team, the pressure got to them, and they fell apart.
Yeah, and I can see that happening too. I think one of my biggest problems for picking the games was I was like, you know what, Jalen Ramsey, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Ramsey's got them all day. All right, I was talking about Danny Amendola, AJ Boye, he's got them, but that obviously didn't work out that way because, like I said, you had Brandon Cooks.
It did not work out that way.
Yeah, you had Brandon Cooks with 6 receptions for 100 yards. That was probably the most disappointing thing for me from the Jags defense. They let Brandon Cooks do that to him, and he's been struggling all year. And then you had Danny Amendola with 7 receptions for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. One of the biggest things is I didn't get to watch the entire game, but I caught some of it, and I saw that it was either Barry Church, and I'm talking about for the majority of the game, you had Barry Church or Deshaun Gibson covering Amendola, and pretty much like they'd have good coverage on him, but somehow Amendola would just beat him. He'd have like that last step that he could get to him. I don't understand how that happened. But
now I got a question for you. When Gronk went down, and you look at things, if you know anything about the Patriots, the minute Gronk goes down, Danny Amendola becomes Gronk light. And once Gronk went down with that concussion, I think where I was at, a lot of people were looking at it as, that's it for the Patriots. No Gronk, no chance. But just like last year, once Gronk went out, Danny Amendola became a major factor, and the Jaguars didn't really account for that.
Yeah, that's true, man. Because every time you watch the Patriots, you see if Gronk's not in, where's Danny Amendola at? Right there where Gronk is, because Gronk isn't your typical prototype tight end that lines up next to the right tackle or the left tackle, right? Gronk is like I credit Jimmy Graham for this. Jimmy Graham was like the first guy that started lining up in the slot on the outside as a wide receiver. All right, and that's what Gronk does now. So that's why you throw in a guy like Danny Amendola, like you said, it works out. And like you said, Jacksonville just didn't account for that. And like watching the game too, I mean, Jacksonville, they were up for most of the second half also. I mean, really not until late in the fourth quarter, I think it was 6 minutes left, is when they took the lead, I think, or around 3 minutes. I think it was 3 minutes they took the lead. And there was this one play in the fourth quarter was like, you know what, Jacksonville's going to win this game. And it was that Miles Jack fumble where he stripped Deion Lewis, basically took his lunch, as I like to say, when he just takes the ball away from him. And one thing that hurt the Jags... Are you
talking about that double pass?
Yeah, the double pass.
Okay.
Yeah, so one thing that really hurt the Jags there was that I don't think he got touched, but the refs, I don't think, shouldn't have blew it dead as soon as Miles Jack came up with the ball. I think you got to let that play. You got to let it play out and go from there, and then you review it. If he's touched, then... yeah, he's down. But like I said, you got to let that go play out. And I think that's one thing that might have been a game changer for the fourth quarter right there.
Okay, you want to hear my game changer?
Yeah.
The game changer is that when Jacksonville came out at halftime, they came out tight. And they became incredibly predictable. In the first half, they would mix up first down, they'd pass, they'd run. They'd do a lot of different things to give the Patriots defense, to keep the Patriots defense kind of off their, on their toes. The second half, they came out, and the coaching staff, not the players, the coaching staff failed Jacksonville. Once the second half happened, you could just set your watch. First down, Leonard Fournette, up the middle, 1 yard. Second down, it's 2nd and 9. It's a tough passing situation. Patriots know they're passing, so it'd be a tough passing situation. Third down, it would be 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, but passing situations. And so it got to the point where the Patriots defense could just get comfortable. So the game from the halftime on, the game was just super manageable for New England. Even though they were behind, there was no real danger of Jacksonville, finally putting their boot on their neck because they were so predictable.
Yeah, I see that too. But it's just like Jacksonville, they did come out tight, but I just feel, I don't know, I'm just really disappointed I didn't get this pick right. But man.
And, we've been talking about these picks all week, and I'm gonna toot my own horn real quick. Here's a weird little fact about me. 6 straight years, I picked every single playoff game right. Now, there's a downside to my little being Nostradamus in the playoffs. Is 6 straight years I have been wrong on the Super Bowl, but I'm always right on the playoffs. And this week's playoffs just kind of went exactly the way I thought they would go.
Yeah, 6 years have been right. I'm just happy if I go 3-1 in one weekend, but. But now I guess now obviously the Patriots won, and now we got to see what Jacksonville does going forward. All right, what do they do in the offseason? This team has had the best defense all around in the league. Okay, people like to say Phillies. People like to argue that Minnesota's now. I guess Minnesota's defense, we saw what they did yesterday. All right, so they're kind of out of the running, and then Philly's defense is the next up as arguably they might be better than Jacksonville's. I like Philly's defense, but give me AJ Boye, Jalen Ramsey over Patrick Robinson, and what's the other guy? Ronald Darby, I think his name is. I like Philly's defensive line might be a little tiny bit better than Jacksonville's, but I give the edge to Jacksonville as far as linebackers go. And like I said, it's not that big of an edge. So now you got the best defense in the league, arguably, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, you got a probably top 10 at least running back in rookie Leonard Fournette, and going into a second year next year. You got a pretty nice receiving core. You got Keenan Cole. You got Marquise Lee. Allen Hurns played pretty well last game. And then I think Allen Robinson's going to be a free agent. But I think if I'm Jacksonville, I'm bringing him back. So the biggest problem, or the biggest question, I should say, do you bring Blake Bortles back? What do you do? I think they have to get a quarterback in the offseason, whether it be an Alex Smith type, a Kirk Cousins type, or even a guy like Sam Bradford. I just think you have to do some type of upgrade over Blake Bortles, because this team, I feel, has been winning. They think they brought, I've been feeling like they brought Blake Bortles with them to the AFC Championship.
Oh, wow. Okay. First off, I'm going to agree with you on the defense. Jacksonville's defense, when you look at this team, it is a super young team. You got a young team that's only going to improve. I personally think Jacksonville's defense will be even better than this year's defense. So I think they will make I think, that leap that makes them that all-world type defense. And then you've said it, the biggest question is, what do you do with Blake Bortles? And you have a situation where Blake Bortles, it's not that they brought him along. Blake Bortles actually played better than Tom Brady did. When you look at stats-wise, look at the numbers, Blake Bortles outplayed Tom Brady. And Tom Brady played fantastic. But compare the numbers.
Yeah, so Bortles threw for 293 yards. Brady, 3 less than that. Brady did have 1 touchdown more, but those are little goal line near touchdowns right there. And then Bortles completed 23 out of 36 attempts. Brady completed 26 out of 38. Pretty identical, honestly.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It wasn't his fault that they lost. Matter of fact, he's the reason why they were in it. Because down the stretch, he's the one that he was the one that was the most game. If you can look at it two ways. You can look at it as this is the year that he finally made that leap where the reason why Jacksonville drafted him is because they saw this in him, and this is the year that he makes that leap. Or you look at it and say, we have an all-world defense, and we need to go out and get someone that's going to get us over the top. But when you start thinking about getting you over the top, are you going to let go of the guy who got you to the AFC Championship game, played, fantastically in the AFC Championship game, so he was able to handle the pressure and perform well for Captain Checkdown, Alex Smith, Sam, I got a knee issue, Bradford? It's one of those things. You're not going to go out and get a Kirk Cousins, which is going to eat up your entire salary cap. So when I start looking at it and I start wondering what they should do, I think you got to give him one more year to see, does he really make that step forward? I don't think you let him go.
See, I see that. All right, and as far as Captain Checkdown Alex Smith, I know that he's not going to lose me a game. I've been saying it all year. The Jaguars were playing the opposing team, but also playing against Blake Bortles. Yeah, he did play well in the AFC Championship. He had a pretty nice playoff run. All right, but I like to connect this to what the Titans did with Mike Mularkey. All right, down 21-3. Titans come back, win that one 22-21. Ownership comes out. Boom. Yeah, Mike Mularkey's our guy. We're bringing him back. All right. Next week, gets blown out by the Patriots. Oh, yeah, Mike Mularkey's been fired. Okay, and then, like I said, you get the Blake Bortles. This is the wild card game that Tennessee had. This is the Blake Bortles game right here. Okay, plays extremely well. Week 1 next week or next season, or even just the season as it is, Blake Bortles goes back to the Blake Bortles we've all come to know and love. That's the thing right there, I think. With Blake Bortles, I mean, yeah, he played well, but is he, this team's ready to win now. They can't waste years. All right, this team is ready to go back to the AFC Championship again next year, possibly, and maybe even win a Super Bowl. They're that good. So do you want to bring back a guy like Blake Bortles as a wait-and-see type of year next year?
Now, if it was me, I would keep Blake Bortles. Just from what he did, his age, he's a young quarterback. He may have been a slow developer, but when you look at him against Pittsburgh and you look at him against New England, he's been playing in the most high-pressure situations. He has been playing all world. But, here's the but. Want me to give you the number one reason why you should get rid of him?
What?
The same reason why they lost the game. And that is the coaching staff lost that game for him. Because when they got in that locker room and they looked at the score and they came out, it was kind of like they looked at things and said, we're winning, and despite Blake Bortles, oh God, don't let Blake Bortles lose this game for us. And they kind of called the game in a way that kind of made it so that he did not cost them the game, which ended up costing them the game in general. Do you agree on that? Because the way they started calling the whole game, once they realized they were in it, just totally changed.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that you have that in your head that Blake Bortles could lose this game should be kind of concerning.
Right. No, that's the reason why I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's the reason why you get rid of him. If you're making a case for getting rid of him, it was proven in this game the coaching staff does not trust Blake Bortles. And if you're a coaching staff that doesn't trust your quarterback, maybe it's time to find a new quarterback. But as far as his play on the field goes, he deserves to come back. It's just the way the coaching staff performed when the pressure got on. They were more like, put us in situations where Bortles won't hurt us.
Yeah, I see that. But I mean, like I said, it's just the whole, the connection to the whole Mike Mularkey and Titans. You bring him back, he did well. Next week, he doesn't. Next season, Blake Bortles doesn't play well. All right, like this season probably was his best ever so far, but it still was average. It wasn't great. It was good enough. Yeah, he did have some good games, but if you look in context, those numbers, I mean, he only did this maybe, like I said, 3 times this season, 4 times this season. All right. If I'm the Jaguars, I'm not wasting any years. I'm bringing someone I know is better than Blake Bortles. And, I mean, like I said, you just can't waste next year. But we're just going to have to wait and see what Tom Coughlin, because this guy that calls the shots out there, we'll see what he wants to do in the offseason. Obviously, they have a pick that's going to be too high to get a quarterback or too low. I mean, 28. Do you consider that high or do you consider that low? Either way, it's not going to be able to get a top quarterback unless everyone knows my favorite quarterback to go late in the first round, maybe second round, Mason Rudolph, maybe. I don't know. I'm throwing that out there.
I actually think he'll be available. I think Mason Rudolph could be available late in this draft.
Yeah, but like I said, it's either check down Alex Smith or Sam Bradford. I think would better options. But we're actually going to wrap up this segment. Next up, we're going to be talking Vikings, Eagles, talk about that whole blowout right there. And then for the rest of the show, I mean, third segment, we're going to be talking quarterbacks. We're going to be talking Case Keenum. Where's he going to end up? Teddy Bridgewater. Blake Bortles, we'll talk about him. Like, say, like the Jags don't bring him back. What's in store for him next? So we'll be doing that. And for the fourth segment, as you guys all know, we talk pretty much whatever comes into my mind. It's pretty much like a Jesse Stotts type of segment, but now we have Tate here, so it's a Jesse and Tate Stotts type of segment. We'll probably talk about Mike Tomlin. Maybe talk about Tom Brady too. This game right here, like, does it elevate his status as a quarterback? Is he like clear-cut number one, or are there other quarterbacks all time that would you take? So we'll be talking about that. So like I said, stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. That last segment, me and Tate basically talked about the New England Patriots Jacksonville Jaguars game. As I said before, Patriots came out on top in that one, 24-20. Jacksonville did have moments where like they could have pulled it out, but you know, there's that guy named Tom Brady, I think it is, that plays quarterback for the Patriots. Yeah, he's pretty good, so he brought him back. They ended up winning. Talked a little bit also about what do the Jaguars do at quarterback next season? Tate says bring him back. I say get rid of Bortles. Anyone else is better, honestly. But
anyone else?
Not anyone else, but I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks that are better than Blake Bortles. I'll just say that. All right. So, as for this segment, as the listeners have known, we're going to talk about the other game that happened, and this was a shocker to me. All right, the Philadelphia Eagles pulled out the big win against the Minnesota Vikings, 38-7. There was a point where I was like, Minnesota might win this game. And I was literally right after they scored the touchdown. I checked my phone after that. It's already 14-7, and then that was all she wrote after that. Stats, we got Case Keenum, 28-48, 271 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Jerick McKinnon, 10 carries, 40 yards. Really got more reps in this one since they were behind. He also had 11 receptions, for 86 yards. Stephon Diggs, 8 receptions, 7 yards. Adam Thielen, pretty disappointing, 3 receptions, 28 yards, and Kyle Rudolph caught Case Keenum's only touchdown of the game. Then you had Nick Foles. Surprised me. Did not think he could throw deep, but he did. All right, Nick Foles, 26-33 passing the ball, 352 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jay Ajayi, 18 carries, 73 yards. Garrett Blount did his job, 6 carries, 21 yards, 1 touchdown. Zach Ertz, huge game, 8 receptions, 93 yards. Alshon Jeffrey, 5 receptions, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns. Torrey Smith, I've been doubting him, so is the Philly fans, to be honest, but he showed up. 5 receptions, 69 yards, and 1 touchdown. All right. So, as much as it hurts me to say, Tate was right on this prediction too. Let's just do it like the last segment. Tell him why.
Oh, no. We're not starting this one off this way.
Oh, how are we starting it off?
What happened when a certain quarterback went down and you and I were talking?
All right, so background check. Carson Wentz goes down, blows out his knee. You guys know because you guys listen to the show. You guys are loyal. All right, I say Eagles are done. All right, I would think of the Nick Foles with the Rams. I think of the Jeff Fisher Nick Foles. All right, you guys know too. Jeff Fisher. I'm number one in the anti-Jeff Fisher fan club.
He really
all right?
is. He hates Jeff Fisher.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I thought that was the Nick Foles in my mind, not the Nick Foles that threw 27 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions with Chip Kelly. I thought that guy was long gone.
What did I tell you was going to happen with Nick Foles?
Tate tells me that, you know what? Nick Foles is a better option late season and in playoffs than Carson Wentz. He's going to get farther than Carson Wentz could have. And, I mean, we'll never know. But, I mean, Nick Foles has got him to the Super Bowl. He's there now. So
Called it.
Yeah, so Tate was right about this game and Nick Foles. I'm still kind of on the fence about Nick Foles, like a little less than what I was because I didn't think he could throw the ball deep. I think it was before yesterday's game. He only had one pass completion more than 20 yards. So, I mean, it was pretty reasonable for me to think it, but he proved me wrong. So, Tate, why don't you tell them why you picked the Eagles in this one?
Okay, first off, when I looked at this game, a lot of times the biggest mistake, and we were talking about this before the show, the biggest mistake that a lot of people make when they're making predictions is they just account for if this team lined themselves up against this other team, who's better? This is not a board game Risk or some other board game where there's rules of movement. When I looked at things, there's things that you had to take into account. Nick Foles, a more experienced quarterback, who's been able to handle pressure, who handles pressure. He may not be the most talented quarterback, but when I look at who can handle the pressure better, and I say Case Keenum or Nick Foles, I was taking Nick Foles. Then I look at the situation where you look at Minnesota, who had narrowly escaped the game where they won a game where they should not have won, and it's kind of that emotional energy dump where it's like, wow, we made it. Where you had all these questions about the win and all this. Then you also had a situation where you're not playing at home, and if you win, you go to the Super Bowl and you get to play in your home stadium. There's a reason why no one has ever played in their home stadium in a Super Bowl, because that's extra pressure that no one has ever been able to own up to. I thought the pressure, when you look at these two teams and you say defensively, they're neck and neck. When you look at the way Minnesota's been playing offensively, I thought Philadelphia has a better offense, better special teams, equal on defense, handle pressure better, and they're at home and they don't have the stipulation of if you win, you get to go home, which makes a team come out and play super tight. And I told you this before on Friday. Minnesota, I predicted, would come out and play tight, and they would get ran. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I picked Minnesota, and again, go check out the last podcast where I was making my picks for a little bit more context as to why. But I picked Minnesota, and I was thinking, you know what, like, you could hear me on the podcast saying I'm kind of torn on it because you could it pretty much it was Case Keenum that needed to win this game for Minnesota. You don't need Nick Foles to play obviously he did play great, but you don't need Nick Foles to go out and do what he did in order for them to win. I mean, they could have scored 14 points in this game and they would win. I mean, the 38 is extra, but like I said, they could have scored 14 points. Nick Foles could have been average, did his job, been a game manager, and came out with the win. But I mean, Nick Foles comes out here and keeps me quiet because he played well, threw down the field, which I didn't think he could do. All right. And one of the biggest problems for Minnesota, I'll admit, I'm a bit of an X's and O's guy. I said that they needed to take the underneath routes out, take away the running back screens. They couldn't even do that. So, I mean, if you can't do that from the start and then you got Nick Foles throwing the ball deep and he's completing them, you have no chance whatsoever, I feel. So, and that's what happened. I didn't think it was going to be this big of a blowout, but it was.
Now, one of the things that when I look at this game is I looked at more about, think about when you're in a pressure situation. Teams, people, everyone. you get tight, your muscles tighten up. There was a lot more pressure. When you just look at the pressure gauge, there was way more pressure on Minnesota's side than there was for Philadelphia. Handling it's the NFC Championship game, so dealing with family travel, friends trying to get to the game. When you start looking at all the things that are going on, that little bit of extra pressure can make someone really tight. Do I think, like earlier in the last segment, you said Minnesota's defense isn't as good as Jacksonville. It's kind of proved I think Minnesota's defense is a really good defense. I just think they folded under pressure. I think they collapsed under pressure. They gave up more points this game than they did all year.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't know. It's just weird for, like, usually over the years we've seen, like, defense is really, unless I'm just drawing a blank on a couple, but I mean, defense really, they always usually show up, right? Like, yeah, a bad game for a defense would be about maybe, for a defense like of this caliber, would be probably around giving up 21 points, 24 points, and all that. But I mean, this team gave up 38 points. And again, I know Nick Foles is playing well, but I mean, it might just be me not believing enough. But I mean, it's Nick Foles you gave up 38 points to.
Now, my question to you, when you start looking at some of these defenses, some of these all-time great defenses, and you say they never folded, the big difference between those all-time great defenses and this Minnesota defense is, before they got to this level in the past, they would get to, they would be, the previous year, they had their coming out party. And then this year, then they go on their championship run. Minnesota's defense, they didn't have their coming out party. They went from a mid to upper tier defense to world-class defense in one season. So they never had that coming out party. So this was their coming out party, and they were made prom king and prom queen in the same year, and that made a lot of pressure on that defense.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like I guess the general consensus hasn't been around too much for Minnesota's defense, but they've been pretty solid the last few years, and that was the biggest thing. What was holding them back was Teddy Bridgewater, pretty much his knee basically exploding. I mean, that practice, and then you pretty much had Sam Bradford, who got injured. I think last year he played. Yeah, last year he actually broke the completion percentage record. But I mean, you throw in a guy like Case Keenum. I mean, it's just the defense has always been steady, always been good, and it's just, I don't understand just how you falter that much, but nonetheless they did. One thing I want to say about Philly, though, obviously we know the Patriots have the best coaching staff in the league. I think one of the biggest reasons, though, as to why Philly has made it this far is not just Nick Foles, but is that whole coaching staff they got there. What do you think?
I think, seriously, Philadelphia they're technically on paper, they're laid out perfect. They got a great coaching staff across the board. They're a great balanced team across the board. And when I say, defensive backs, defensive line, offensive line, running back, wide receiver, even when you mix in quarterback with the two quarterbacks that they've had, they're just solid. They're not all world. They're not great. They're just solid across the board, which makes them, in my opinion, the most complete team this year, and maybe the most complete team I have seen in years.
All right. Yes, Philly is one of the most complete teams in the NFL.
You looked at me like I was absolutely crazy.
Well, not crazy, but I mean, there is a team in the AFC Championship that just lost. I think they might be more complete than Philly.
And that team is?
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville all year has been I'm a defensive team. I have a decent running game, but I'm going to give you a count to you. The passing game has not really been that great. The quarterback play hasn't really been that great. Granted, like I told you, Bortles came on, as everyone knows, came on at the end of the year. But as a whole, they haven't been an all-world team because, I mean, when I say balance, when you go defensive backs, you check. When you go defensive line, you go check. When you go running game, I say check. But when I say offensive line, I don't check. They're a good run offensive line, but did they really give Bortles the protection they needed all the way through the season? I don't think so. I didn't like the wide receivers, and special teams were
You know what? You might be driving me to the side, but I'm going to stick with Jacksonville as the most complete team. I don't think you're giving that running game, the due that they deserve. You said decent. I think that Leonard Fournette.
Oh, but see, I agree with you. Leonard Fournette is the truth.
Yeah.
We're not arguing about Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette, and I think Leonard Fournette's going to be better next year than he is this year.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
My problem is, I don't think that offensive line really gave Leonard Fournette all that he wasn't all that he could be. And the reason why I say that is, if that offensive line throughout the year could have given Bortles more time, and if Bortles could have had a much higher caliber of play, imagine what Jacksonville would have been like if they would have had and I know I just said I would keep Bortles, but imagine if they would have had a more balanced attack where teams didn't have to say, we're going to put 8 men in the box and we're going to stop Leonard Fournette, where it was like, we can't put 8 men in the box because Joey Go Deep is going to kill us. Mm-hmm. Leonard Fournette would have been his numbers would have been all world.
Yeah. And as far as Jacksonville's wide receivers go, I think that they were held back by Bortles.
Oh, no, I agree
You're
with you
on
that, yes.
Watch, next year, I'm calling it right now, okay? Next year, if Jacksonville gets rid of Bortles, brings in even an Alex Smith type, all right? I know, Tate, you don't like Alex Smith, okay? I know you don't like him.
I'm like, not Alex Smith, come on.
All right. But, like I said, Alex Smith this year played well. Played well for most of the season, actually. He had the best season of his career. You bring in a guy like that, at least. That's like a bare minimum right there you need for Jacksonville's receivers to get better. You got Keenan Cole, young guy, pretty unknown, but he's quick, and he showed you against the Patriots what he could do. All right, you got Marquise Lee, who had his breakout season this year. First 2 years really wasn't, or was he a rookie last year? Can't remember exactly, but I think it was first. Yeah, he's in his third year now, I believe. All right, so first 2 years pretty much. He's we don't know yet. This year broke out, played well. All right, Allen Hurns, he's kind of weird. He hasn't been the same since his 15 touchdown year, but he's productive. And like I said, you got to worry about Allen Robinson, about the biggest factor right there that they didn't utilize enough, and I think that's because of Blake Bortles, is D.D. Westbrook. I think all of these receivers are way better than people know yet, and I know that they're relatively young, so that's pretty much why they're unknown, but I feel like they're a whole lot better than what Blake Bortles made them out to be this year.
This is what goes through my head when I think when Alex Smith comes up, and I know we're getting off topic because we're staying on talking about the championship games and getting to the Super Bowl. But when I think of like bringing in, if I'm a Super Bowl caliber team that has Super Bowl aspirations, and I look at Alex Smith, what he did with the 49ers and what he did with Kansas City, and then I also take into account that 2 years ago he went 14 or 15 straight games without a touchdown pass to a wide receiver, that's not the guy to put me over the top.
Yeah, true. You guys see how we did that right there? We're talking about Philly being a complete team, and we completely pivoted. That's what we do on the GSMC football podcast.
I apologize. I kind of did that. That was kind of my fault.
It's no problem. We could. That just shows we got a vast knowledge of sports. We can, like I said, I think there was one time where we were talking about, I think it was talking about basketball, and somehow I ended up talking about Bryce Harper and Mike Trout after that, and it all connects somehow. You just got to make it connect. But either way, like I said, Philly is it's arguably the most complete team in the NFL. Philly, you could make the argument for Jacksonville too. But like I said, now going forward, actually, we're going to save this more for the next segment so we don't give away everything. But we're just going to move on to the next segment after this because you know what? We're going to talk about Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Bradford, and we're going to talk about Blake Bortles. What's next for them? Do they come back? Do they not? Today, I think when they were cleaning out their locker room, you had Teddy Bridgewater saying he doesn't know what the future holds for him. Usually, if a guy wants to be, he's like, I hope they bring me back or I would like to be here. He didn't say that. He said he doesn't know what the future holds for him. I'm sure that him not being activated for the NFC Championship game kind of got to him. Teddy's a good guy, but everyone's a player out here, and they all want to be active at least. All right, Sam Bradford, what's he going to do? Is he going to go somewhere else, or is he going to stick with the Vikings? And same for Case Keenum. What's going to happen with him? And then, like I said, we'll talk about Blake Bortles. So, like I said, we'll talk about those guys for the third segment. Fourth segment's going to be a fun one. We'll be talking Mike Tomlin, talking Tom Brady a little bit. So, all right, stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. Alright, as you guys know, like if you ever wonder why I say the GSMC Football Podcast instead of the makes it sound more official. I mean, it's the Ohio State. Alright, that's pretty much, I think that's the only school that might do that, but
no, there's a bunch of them that do the.
Yeah, like I feel like Ohio State is like that's the school, you know?
But when you're a Hurricane fan, it's the U.
Oh, yeah. That's always the U, yeah. All right. So, like I said, this is the GSMC Football Podcast. If you missed those last two segments, need a quick reminder or just have a bad memory. All right. We talked about both the AFC and NFC Championship games. Did some analysis because that's what football guys do. All right. Like I said, Pats beat the Jags 24-20, and the Eagles blew out the Vikings 38-7. Now that those games are over with, I know usually we talk about for the teams that won what they got going forward, but we got 2 weeks to talk about that, so we're not really going to divulge into that too much. We're going to talk more about quarterbacks. What does Case Keenum do? What does Teddy Bridgewater do? What does Sam Bradford do? And what does Blake Bortles do? Excuse me. All right, those are the four quarterbacks right there. And honestly, like my take, I mean, if I'm Case Keenum, like this game that he had against the Eagles, let me double check those stats again. I mean, he completed 28 out of 48 passes, 271 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. If you guys have been listening, I hope you guys have. All right, I've been saying it all playoffs. Case Keenum is going to get paid unless he has this one colossal bad game that's going to knock him off. I think that's exactly what we just saw. I mean, now it's pretty much like that was the game where people were like, oh, Case Keenum, like he was playing well all season. People were waiting for him to fall. He fell at the absolute wrong time, and he fell incredibly hard. I'm not sure what's next for Case Keenum. I don't think he's getting a big contract. What do you think?
I think that it's a Christmas sale on Case Keenum. And what I mean by that is it's a Black Friday sale where everything is 50% off. And why I say that is Case Keenum was going to be the Minnesota Vikings quarterback for the future, foreseeable future. He was going to get a long-term deal, and it was going to be at, I think, a very nice number. I mean, 15, 20 million.
Yeah, that's above average right there for NFL salary numbers for a quarterback. I mean, you got Sam Bradford, who's making, 15 a year? A little bit more?
So I think he was going to get at least, I think he was going to get at least with Sam Bradford, maybe a little bit more. Now, that's still his going rate, but it's now Black Friday because of what happened. I think you're going to cut that down from 15, 18 million to more like 10, considering the guy that's only getting paid 2 right now. But he's going to, I think if he will, I think Minnesota will still sign him, but I think it'll be at a much friendlier contract. And if they can get him at that rate, I think they should do it.
Yeah, and then like I said, I mean, now with Case Keenum, like obviously he's going to be going down like on a Black Friday rate, like you said. I mean, now it's pretty much consensus going to be, you know what, this is a Pat Shurmur guy here, all right? Pat Shurmur, he's going to be the head coach of the New York Giants. It's going to be announced later this week. I think Jay Glazer during the Vikings game was announcing that he was going to be leaving. So Pat Shurmur is going to be going to the Giants. I mean, now people are going to think that Case Keenum, because look at Case Keenum started off with the Texans, really didn't get too much of a shot, but when he did get an opportunity, really didn't show too much. All right, goes to the Rams. All right, we all know how I feel about that head coach there, but nonetheless, I can't always blame Jeff Fisher for it. Case Keenum just didn't play well. Okay, he didn't. Then, all of a sudden, mysteriously, he has this great year with the Vikings. 22 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, over 3,500 yards. That's just regular season numbers, okay? The divisional game, played well. And then he has this bad game. I mean, now Case Keenum, if I'm Minnesota, I think that he is going to, I'm not sure, because like with Minnesota now, you have 3 quarterbacks you could choose to keep. I think Sam Bradford is the odd man out, and it's going to be between Keenum and Bridgewater, all right? And that's how we could pivot to talking about Teddy now. All right.
Can I make a comment on Case Keenum, though?
Yeah.
Okay. When I look at Case Keenum, this is like I don't hold those other 2 stops against him. I remember when Case Keenum was in college. Case Keenum was all world. He was a spectacular, super talented quarterback for Houston, and he lit it up. They built a team around him to his strengths, and he really let it rip. He turned pro, and he was meant to come in as a third string or a backup. No one built a team around him. He struggled. He went to the Rams. That offense wasn't built around his strengths or his strengths. So he was a square peg trying to go into a very small round hole, and that didn't work. But when Minnesota knew Bridgewater was done, and then when Sam Bradford got hurt, you look at the team that Minnesota was with Bradford. Then when Bradford went down, they catered an entire offense. They changed their offense up, the way they called plays, the whole setup of that offense was catered around Case Keenum. And what happened when Case Keenum had an offense around him? He went back to that guy that we saw at Houston. He was a really good, solid quarterback. And if you'd have taken that helmet off of him and the jersey off of him and just changed and you didn't know it was Case Keenum, you'd be like, that's an MVP candidate.
Yeah, he did have MVP numbers this year. But, I mean, I'm not much of a risk taker as far as football. You know, I don't, like, to me, like, yeah, there's all those factors, but it's just 1 year. And you know what? Pat Shurmur's leaving. That guy was the reason why you got Adam Thielen out here looking like a top 10 receiver. And Adam Thielen does have, he's probably the most underrated receiver in the league, and he does have some talent, but I'm sure Pat Shurmur pretty much helped make Adam Thielen what he is. And you're losing a guy like that. I mean, how do you know the next guy they're bringing in is even going to want Case Keenum or going to be able to bring in an offense that caters to Case Keenum?
Now, well, that's part of being a good head coach and having a good general manager. If you decide, no matter who you bring in, I wouldn't bring my offensive coordinator in until I figure out who I want at quarterback. Am I bringing Bradford back, which I do not think so, and if they do, it'll be as a backup. I don't, if you're gonna say we're all in on Case Keenum, then I want to bring an offensive coordinator in that's going to be able to work with Case Keenum and build a solid offense around what he puts together. That's what I would do.
All right. So are you like, all right, so let's say you're choosing between the Vikings. They're choosing between Teddy or Case Keenum. Is Case Keenum going to the Vikings? If not, like what do you think where Case Keenum is going to end up? If he doesn't end up with Minnesota, where is he going to go after that?
This is a really, really tough situation here. And then when I look at it and I say, you look at Teddy Bridgewater and you say he was supposed to be our man of the future, and if you trust that he will be 100% back and healthy, do you still go that route? And if you trust him, maybe you actually bring Bridgewater back. You could get Bridgewater at a very reasonable rate. You could sign him for a longer, more cap friendly, more club friendly option, and maybe strengthen the team that way. Do not be surprised if you don't see Case Keenum end up with the Giants, as kind of that's a sticky situation. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
No, I was just thinking when you said bringing Case Keenum to the Giants, I've thought about that too, because obviously Pat Shurmur's like, that's my guy, Case. He played well under me. I know what he can do. I know what I have to do to make him play well. Imagine the Giants, okay? They say, get rid of Eli. He ends up maybe Jacksonville, like you've been saying.
That's what I was going to say. I'll send Eli to Jackson. I'd send Eli to Jacksonville. I would bring my guy Case Keenum with me. I'd make him my starting quarterback, and then
you draft Saquon Barkley with that second pick. I think that would be, the Giants would be playoff contenders if they do that.
If I was the Giants, I would stay away from Saquon Barkley. Wait a minute, and I think Saquon Barkley is going to be a good quarterback. But if you bring in Case Keenum and you're going to build an offense around Case Keenum, then I think the best thing to do is to use that pick, either trade down or strengthen that offensive line, because that's one of the things they need. I'd take a solid offensive lineman in that number 4 spot, keep Case Keenum, or trade down, because the Giants have not one hole, not two, but they have a ton of holes, and they would be better served if they're going with Case Keenum to go Case Keenum and then use the pick to strengthen the offensive line or the running game.
Yeah, so that's why I think, because the Giants, I think they have it's the second pick, I think. So if I'm the Giants, like if it's me, I'm not bringing Case. I'm drafting Josh Rosen with that second pick, having him sit under Eli for 2 years, but that's a different conversation for a different podcast day. But if we're talking this, they bring Case. I'm saying bring back Saquon Barkley, because you got scouts out here, NFL draft analysts, saying that Saquon Barkley is probably one of the best running back prospects of all time. Better than Ezekiel Elliott, better than a guy like Adrian Peterson, all right? They're literally saying, like, this is the guy right here. Do you pass up on someone like that, an all-world talent that pretty much like a Myles Garrett type? You know he's going to be good.
And you know what? I misspoke when I was saying I'm thinking about UCLA's quarterback, not Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley's running back. So I said it kind of wrong, but I'm saying I go get Case Keenum. I don't touch any of the quarterbacks in this draft.
Oh yeah, that goes.
But I do agree with you. Mm-hmm. Changing my statement a little bit, they need a running back or an offensive lineman more than a quarterback at that point, because they'll have Eli or Case Keenum in that particular scenario. Then I would rather see a running game to go with Odell Beckham Jr. And Brandon Marshall. I think they would be better served going that way. That defense is already stout. Those two moves are better than going to get a quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah. So that's.
But anyway, we're switching more to the Giants. But as far as Minnesota goes, we both agree Bradford's not coming back.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, you're the coach. Which one are you taking? Just flat out. Who are you taking?
Keenum or Bridgewater?
Yes.
Bridgewater 10 times out of 10. I like Bridgewater. I understand he has the knee injury. All right, but you know what? Case Keenum, he's 30 years old. All right? These guys are going to get identical contracts from, like, the Vikings are probably, whatever they're going to give Keenum, they probably were thinking of giving Bridgewater. It's going to come down to who they just want as their quarterback. Are you going to give Case Keenum 4 years, $40 million, or do you want to give that to the 25-year-old who was playing well before he hurt his knee? And we've seen quarterbacks come back before from knee injuries like that and still play well. I was
just going to say that we've seen Brady have that knee injury. We've seen Carson Palmer have that knee injury and have long, successful careers. The only question I have is, thinking back to when Bridgewater was the man, did you see enough of Bridgewater at that time to say, because their contract's up, you're gonna have to pay. Mm-hmm. We're all in on Bridgewater. Have you seen enough? But because you know what you're getting with Case Keenum, but have you seen enough of Bridgewater to make that jump?
See, I'm not sure if Case,
and it's a Super Bowl on the line. In their mind, it's your decision right now, the unknown or the guy you know, and it's a Super Bowl on the line.
Like I said, Teddy, 10 times out of 10. All right, you got Jerick McKinnon out there, Latavius Murray. You know who else you got? I mean, it's all hypotheticals right now because we're not sure how players are going to come back. But you know who else you got? You got Dalvin Cook, who was tearing up the league for the 4 games he was up. Did tear his ACL. I know that's tough to come back from. All right, but let's say Dalvin Cook. This is all hypotheticals, okay? Let's say Dalvin Cook comes back and he's healthy, no problems with his knee. Adrian Peterson type of comeback, you know. But yeah, let's say he comes back. You don't need Teddy Bridgewater to go out and win you games. All right? This is the new NFL we're heading to. You got top defense, solid running game, solid receivers. Teddy Bridgewater fits there perfectly. All right, like you said, you've taught me NFL's business too. All right, do I want to pay the 30-year-old 4 years, $40 million, or do I want to pay the 25-year-old who has shown that he has upside and he could play well and he could at least, I think, match what Case Keenum did? All right, I think he could do that. You pay the 25-year-old the 4 year, $40 million.
The only problem I have with what you're saying is there's a whole lot of he possibly may, where with Keenum, you already know what you have.
Do you though? Do you know like what you have with the Case Keenum? Again, there's
considering the bad news for Keenum is the last vision that you have is a poor performance.
Yep.
That's the killer for him.
And like I said, people are going to start thinking he's a product of Pat Shurmur. He's only good with Pat Shurmur. All right. Do you want to bring Case Keenum? Like you're putting a bet on Case Keenum too. You're betting on him being the same quarterback that he was. Like he actually has this ability. Do we still think like I don't know if Case Keenum does. So like I said, if I'm paying, to me it's either you don't know what you're really getting, you have an idea, and I like the idea of Teddy Bridgewater on my team rather than Case Keenum. All right, I like that.
That's the question I have is I don't know what I'm going to get for for Bridgewater. Bridgewater's been gone for 2 years. And when you talk about they're in the mood to win now, is if you're in a win now mode, this is my question to you. You're in a win now mode. Do you go with the guy that took you to the NFC Championship game, or the guy who has not taken a real snap in 2 years? It'll be going on 2.5 years by the time this next season. It'll be a guy that hasn't taken a real meaningful snap in 2.5 years.
Short answer, yes.
you're like 10 out of 10.
Yep. Teddy, I think he's that good. All right, he's at 2.5 years. Like you say, he's gonna have 2.5 years off the ACL injury. He's gonna be all healed up. All right, but the thing is, I'm not even sure if Teddy wants to come back. All right, if you listen to what he said today when they were cleaning out the locker room, he was asked by reporters if he was going to be back next season. He said he doesn't know what the future holds. Like I said before, right before we ended the last segment, if you're a guy who wants to be back and you've paid attention to what these players say, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I would like to be back here. Or I hope they bring me back." He didn't say that. He said he doesn't know what he's doing.
He doesn't want to come back, and I'm going to tell you why. It's kind of a harsh statement to say that flat out he doesn't want to come back. But Teddy Bridgewater looks at himself as a starter. Not only does he look at himself as a starter, but he looks at himself as a future all-pro, all-world quarterback. And if I look at myself as a future all-world quarterback, this is the one thing that I could see him doing, and that is saying there's a lot of available spots out there. I want to go to somewhere that's going to give me a true shot at being being a starter where some team's going to build their future around me. His big worry is that with what Case Keenum has done, he's been ready to play for most of the season. He's just been sitting the bench. He's not going to beat out. He doesn't think he's going to beat out Case Keenum. Case Keenum's a starter, and he does not want to be the backup. Yeah,
if I decide think about what the Vikings are going to do, chances are they're probably going to bring back Keenum, let Bridgewater walk. All right, so that brings me to my next point. What's a fit for Bridgewater? Okay, you got a team like Jacksonville needs a quarterback, Buffalo needs a quarterback, Washington needs a quarterback, New York needs a quarterback. Obviously, Denver does.
Which New York?
The Jets. All right, the Giants are going to go quarterback in the draft. Browns are going quarterback draft. Broncos are going Cousins or quarterback in the draft. And I think, like I said, Washington, Jacksonville, Buffalo, and the New York Jets need quarterbacks. I might be missing another team, but right now that's all I got.
Denver.
Like I said, Denver, I think they're going Kirk Cousins or Josh Allen or possibly Baker Mayfield. I know in they have one of their coaching staff is coaching one of the teams in the Senior Bowl, and they requested that Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield are on their team, which I think they are. So I think it's going to go one of those two or Kirk Cousins.
Okay, this is where if Bridgewater is put out there, I look at this and I say, look at the teams who have all early picks. The Browns, they're not going to take him. The Giants, they're not going to take him. You look at all the people that have early round picks who need a quarterback, and none of those guys are going to touch Bridgewater. So, is there a team out there that needs a quarterback that is going to that I think will take a chance on him? The answer is yes. And that's a team that feels like, you know what, we can get over the hump by making this move, and that team is the New York Jets.
I'm not sure. Like the Jets would be a good fit, but I feel like the Jets, they haven't had that. Like, it's weird with the Jets. I mean,
but you got to remember, this is the Jets. So
yeah, that's true. All right, yeah. So I mean, it's the Jets, but I mean, ever since Chad Pennington left, I mean, yeah, you had Favre for 2 years. That didn't really work out. Haven't had a quarterback since. They've been pretty much doing stop and go type of quarterbacks. Josh McCown.
Think about like Geno Smith.
Yeah.
Think about Sanchez. Think about the quarterbacks that they tend to go for. Bridgewater fits that mold.
That's true. I mean, the Jets, Todd Bowles, he's a coach that has a team out there where you don't need a quarterback to take you to the Super Bowl. You have a defense who's really young, and that's going to be a top defense next few years. I like the way they play. All right, they're a bunch of young guys. They don't really try to do too much. They do their jobs. All right, so yeah, Teddy Bridgewater, I could see that happening for the Jets. I think that's probably the most logical destination for him to go to if the Vikings don't bring him back. So we talked about Teddy. We talked about Case. Sam Bradford, where's he going? I think it's Buffalo. I think it's a Buffalo-type move. Okay, Buffalo's not getting a top quarterback in the draft with the number 21, number 22 pick. They need to build up that receiving corps. They probably need to go, honestly, just back-to-back receivers with those picks. Bring in a guy like Sam Bradford. You already got LaShawn McCoy, top 5 running back in the league. All right, you know what Bradford is. You know he's not going to lose you games or anything like that. He's not going to throw interceptions. All right, Sam Bradford is the safe pick for the Buffalo Bills. They have a young defense. Do need to bring in some younger guys to eventually replace those older guys on the defense. But, I mean, you bring in Bradford, draft a couple of receivers, you're already back in playoff contention, I think. Where do you think Bradford ends up?
I think Bradford's going to go to a team that feels like we're close, where we need a quarterback to come in that's going to add continuity to our team, but also is going to fit in with our team. We're more of a veteran-type team with a lot of older players. But we need a serviceable quarterback that can get us over the hump because we're only a year or two. We got a year or two left before we're going to have to blow this up. And that team is the Cardinals.
The Cardinals? Yeah. I think the Cardinals have a mid-teens pick, I think. So we gotta think too.
I think you had a minor stroke, didn't you?
I don't know. It might have. It froze me a bit, but I mean, you got to think.
You see it? Now think about this. They have an older team, and Bradford's an older quarterback who would be able to fit into that offense, fit in with that locker room presence. They're not in it's time for us to develop a brand new quarterback. So what they really want is another Carson Palmer 2.0, a veteran but serviceable type quarterback. That's Sam Bradford. I think he fits in perfect for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I could see that happening too. I mean, you got to think too. I mean, obviously you're gonna have a bunch of quarterbacks on the market. Tyrod Taylor, he's probably not gonna have a job though. That's probably the saddest part about all this. You got Alex Smith. Alex Smith fits in with the Cardinals, I think. With
now, Alex
Buffalo.
Smith fits in I think Alex Smith fits in very well with the Cardinals as well. If it's not Sam Bradford going to the Cardinals, Alex Smith would be the next best spot. My only thing is, are you sure that Alex Smith is going to leave Kansas City?
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is going to be the guy. I'm almost positive that Kansas City is going to end up trading Alex Smith.
You're sure they're not going to say one more year?
Nah, I mean, they already know what they have with Alex Smith. They're going to think, oh, Patrick Mahomes played that Week 17 game. He played pretty well. Let's go with him instead. He's the future. I mean, this Kansas City Chiefs team, I compare them to the old Chargers team with LT and Phillip Rivers. That team with Phillip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson, you got Michael Turner in his prime when he was playing well. You had guys like Junior Seau. I mean, that team should have won a Super Bowl, never did. Obviously, this Kansas City Chiefs team isn't as good.
Super Bowls are hard to win.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in the next segment, actually. But, yeah, like I said, the Kansas City Chiefs team isn't as good as that Chargers team, but should be winning more in the playoffs. So I think that's why they're going to get rid of Alex Smith. They know Alex Smith is going to get us to the playoffs. We're going to compete. But, I mean, you don't get to play Patriots every week like the Chiefs, I'm sure want to because they always blow them out. But like I said, I mean, you know you're getting Alex Smith. I say that they're going to trade him. Patrick Mahomes is the future.
Do you know why I think the Kansas City is going to keep Alex Smith?
Why?
Is because they have a quarterback of the future that's on a rookie contract, and they can keep him and develop him even more, and they can make one more run at a Super Bowl with the current team constructed. And I think they look at things and say, we're just one move away from getting over that hump. We're a playoff team. We might have been even the best team in the NFL. It'll give my quarterback another year to develop, and then we make that move. I think they looked at it as a 2-year plan. This was year 1. Next year's year 2. Then get rid of Alex Smith. I'm feeling pretty confident. I think Alex Smith will be there.
See, the way I look at it, I mean, it's like the whole Jacksonville thing with Blake Bortles. And as far as Blake Bortles, I want to make a quick comment about where he's going to end up. I think he's going to go to a team like a team that's drafting low, and they're going to have Blake Bortles. He's going to be the quarterback that comes in. He's going to be the starter. He's going to be the Blake Bortles' career, if he leaves Jacksonville, is going to be Josh McCown's. All right, he's going to be the new Josh McCown. He's going to go team to team, bad team to bad team. All right, starting for them until that younger guy they drafted is going to be coming in for them. So I'm not sure where Blake Bortles is going to end up. Just wanted to make a quick note about that. What do you think of Blake Bortles, actually?
I think Blake Bortles is going to stay as the starting quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's only one quarterback out there that will take his spot, and that's Eli Manning. If Eli gets let go from New York, then all bets are off. I think Eli will go to Jacksonville and Bortles will be out.
Eli going to Jacksonville? By the way, I know there's Eli Manning haters out there. I know you guys listen to the show. He's already a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's going to go to Jacksonville. He's going to win another Super Bowl. All right? But that's all I got to say. I'm an Eli Manning defender on this podcast. But, yeah, I could see, like, Eli Manning with Jacksonville be a good fit. And I could see, like, that's the only way Blake Bortles leaves. But, I mean, I don't know. I can't bring back Blake Bortles. But as far as Alex Smith goes, going back to the original point, I think that he's done. I mean, you saw Alex Smith. He had the best year of his career. Where does that get you? That gets you a first-round exit against the Tennessee Titans.
But my question to you on Alex Smith was Alex Smith the fault of that, or was it Andy Reid?
All right. It was...
Which totally takes us in a totally different direction, by the way.
I mean, it was Andy Reid, but, I mean, Andy Reid loves to get in his own way. Andy Reid.
Kareem Hunt. Oh, we don't... Kareem Hunt, who's he? They just, like, midway through the season, best running back in the NFL, forgot about him. Just saying.
I mean, but that's the thing, too. If you're going to take account Andy Reid, I mean, the guy just pretty much puts out great quarterbacks. He had McNabb, and then made Alex Smith look way better than he did in San Francisco. Maybe he thinks he could do the same with Patrick Mahomes.
Oh no, I think he does think he can do great. I just think Andy Reid's an old school type coach, and having a quarterback which can learn for 2 years and then make that move is better than making that move on a young, inexperienced guy. I see them. I really do see Bortles staying, and I see Alex Smith staying.
I mean, either or
and
could happen.
I see Keenum staying.
Yeah, I think Keenum is going to stay. I really hope that they end up taking Bridgewater. But, I mean, I'm not sure how I feel about Bortles staying. And Alex Smith, I think he's gone for sure. So, I mean, that's all we got to say about quarterbacks right there. All right, we talked about a lot. Like, we talked about Smith. We talked about Bortles. We talked about Bradford, Keenum, Bridgewater. And are we missing one? Talked about Eli Manning for a little bit. We did it all right there. That was a nice little treat for you guys. But next up, this is the funnest segment of the show usually. It's pretty much just some random thought conversation where we're going to be talking Mike Tomlin, okay? There's people after him, when they lost to the Jaguars, people were starting to talk a little bit about his job. Should he be back, okay? We're going to talk about that, and we're also going to talk about Tom Brady as far as is he the all-time greatest greatest quarterback of all time, all right? So stay tuned, and we'll be back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. I think I've said it before, but Tate, I think you needed to get me Matthew McConaughey on the show. I like to start my intros with "all right." I mean, imagine if we had the "all right" as the intro with Matthew McConaughey doing it.
Now, see, I always start mine out with "all right now."
So pretty similar. I mean, just imagine though we had Matthew McConaughey, but I mean. That's just the dream right there.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna share a little side note. The DJ at my wedding, Matthew McConaughey, DJ'd my wedding.
Wait. Matthew McConaughey, the guy we're talking about. All right, Dazed and Confused movie. What other movies? Yeah, that's probably his best movie ever that he's done. I mean, the huge Texas fan. That Matthew McConaughey.
No, the DJ's name was Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, I mean, you had me like that. That would have been that's the greatest conversation starter. Oh, you know Matthew McConaughey? Yeah, the guy from Dazed and Confused. Yeah, he DJ'd my wedding. But all right, you had me like mind blown for a second.
I swear his name was Matthew McConaughey. He DJ'd my wedding.
That got me right there. I thought it was the Matthew McConaughey. But all right, so last segment, let me recap the show so far. We've talked AFC, NFC Championship games. Once again, Eagles, Pats in the Super Bowl. We talked quarterbacks last segment. Talked about where they could end up. Talked about if they're going to stay. This segment, we're going to talk about Mike Tomlin. Talk about does he deserve to lose his job because of just because they lost to the Jags and because like there's been a lack of success there. It's not really something that's going to happen, I don't think, and I don't think it should happen. But I think Mike Tomlin should be on the hot seat. All right, you got Mike Tomlin. All right, you got the Hall of Fame quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger. You got the best running back in the league by far in Le'Veon Bell, also a future Hall of Famer. You got the best player in the NFL in Antonio Brown. And I say best player, better than J.J. Watt, better than Tom Brady, better than anyone at what they do. Antonio Brown, by far. All right. You got now, you always got solid number 2 and number 3 receivers year round. Okay. Solid offensive line. All right. Obviously, what I'm telling you is they have the best offense usually year after year. All right. Defense could do better, but I mean, it's been pretty adequate last few years, okay? So I'm not saying that he should be fired, but he's got to be on the hot seat, okay? This is the Pittsburgh Steelers we're talking about, not the Cincinnati Bengals or anyone that'd be happy to make it to the playoffs year after year. Pittsburgh Steelers, all right? There's culture. You got to win Super Bowls. You think the Patriots would be all right with going to the playoffs year after year? No. So, I mean, I'm not going to take up the whole segment, so go ahead and tell me your thoughts, and I'll counter you.
All right. I'm going to start off by a rude comment, but I don't mean it to be rude. Puff, give. Because you are smoking something today. I mean, some good stuff. And I know it's legal in California, but holy crap. You're going to get rid of Mike Tomlin, maybe one of the best coaches in the NFL today. Maybe one of the best coaches in the last 20 or 30 years. One of the best coaches. I said one, not the best.
Yeah, one of the best.
One of the best coaches in the last 20 or 30 years. And all he's done is he's won a Super Bowl. He's taken his team to playoff berth after playoff berth, divisional title after divisional title. And when you say Big Ben, Hall of Famer, when you say Antonio Brown, world class potential Hall of Famer. When you look at the Killer Bees and you say you got all this talent around you, yes, they got talent around you, but are they talented because of who they are, Or is it that the coach puts them in the best situation to bring out those talents? There's a lot of players that play in the NFL that are all world, and then they go somewhere else, and they're just not the same. Certain coaches know how to bring out the talent in players, and nobody but no one brings out more talent in a player than Mike Tomlin. I think he's the perfect fit for the Steelers. He fits the Pittsburgh Steelers environment. There's no way in the world. He's, as a matter of fact, next to Belichick, he's the next coach that I would not touch in at any time.
All right, so I get all that.
And one last thing, you are saying when you say this, it makes me think of Marty Schottenheimer and the Kansas City Chiefs, not the Kansas City Chiefs, but the San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
San Diego they were winning the division, they were contending for the Super Bowl, they were contending for the playoffs, and Marty Schottenheimer's last year he was 15-1, and they got rid of him, and they haven't been worth a crap since then.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, you gotta look. The Steelers, like I understand like that Chargers argument, but you can't compare them to the Steelers. I mean, the Steelers, who was I'm too young, dude. I can't remember like the first coach that they had.
Chuck Noll?
Chuck Noll, yeah.
I'm there for you.
Yeah, thank you. There, all right.
Also, I grew up in a town. I'm from Alliance, Ohio, and the interesting thing about Alliance, Ohio is it's equal distance from Cleveland, Ohio, to Alliance, Ohio, as it is Alliance, Ohio, to Pittsburgh. So they're smack in the middle.
Yeah. So it's a fun fact for you guys out there. All right?
You're like, I'm not impressed. They're both our local teams. That's the whole point.
Yeah. But, all right, so like I said, you go from Chuck Noll, and you go to Cowher. I think it was Steelers, right? They went from Chuck Noll to Cowher? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you went Chuck Noll to Cowher, then you go to Tomlin. You know what that tells me? Steelers know how to hire good head coaches, great head coaches. I mean, I'm not saying that they should fire Mike Tomlin. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying he should be on the hot seat a little bit, all right? He should be feeling some heat right there, okay? Because like I said, you got Mike Tomlin. Yeah, you could argue that he made these players that I was talking about all-world. They're a product of him. That's cool. Either way, still top players in the league. Either way, only one Super Bowl out of 8 years with this great team, all right? They should have and it's not even
Super Bowl out of 8 years. That is, check every team and not name the Patriots. If you get one Super Bowl out of any team, I mean all-world team, take the Bears teams, the '85 Bears team. That team was loaded for a full decade. They got one Super Bowl. You take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles team that I talked about before with Randall Cunningham and Jerome Brown and all those guys. They got no Super Bowls. You can look at some all-world teams. You can look at some of those Buffalo Bills teams. 0 Super Bowls. When you can get a Super Bowl in 8 years, in that past 8 years, forget about 8 years. Let's say in the last decade you get one Super Bowl, and let's say 8 or 9 divisional championships, 3 or 4, AFC Championship games. That is called a spectacular resume, and I wanted to keep going. Hot seat. Only thing I'm getting that's going to be hot, I'm going to put him a throne and put a statue out front with his picture on it. I'm renewing him, not put him on the hot seat.
You said all that? Not impressed. All right. Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. All right.
And who has won better other than Belichick? Who has won more than him?
No one. But I'm being greedy.
Okay.
I'm being greedy. I'll admit, I'm being greedy here. Okay. In Pittsburgh, you're supposed to win the division. All right. You're supposed to. All right. There's no other way around it. You need to win that division year after year. All right. And as far as the AFC Championship games, he's only been to 2 in 8 years.
I'm going to use Marty Schottenheimer again. The Browns were killing it. They were going to AFC Championship games. They were in the playoffs every year. This is going back some time. Marty Schottenheimer was the coach, and they said Marty couldn't get it over the edge. So it's time to put him on the hot seat, and then they got rid of him. Browns haven't been back to anything since then.
I mean, the Browns are like
they don't even put brown lettering for the Super Bowl.
The Browns, I mean,
Jacksonville Jaguars do the same thing.
Yeah, but I don't want to, like, I know you're from Ohio, and I'm sure you got friends from Ohio who listen to the podcast, but the Browns, I mean, that whole front office, I mean, they've always made bad decision after bad decision.
Horrible decisions.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I mean, I'm not saying fire Mike Tomlin. I'm saying put him on the hot seat. You know what? I'm saying that because I trust that Steelers front office so much to bring in a new head coach that could do the same job. All right. No one knew who Mike Tomlin was, really. I mean, he wasn't pretty much as well known, I guess, as far as like the Steelers did.
I agree with you.
Yeah, so the Steelers knew about Mike Tomlin. All right, I'm sure the Steelers, they know about someone else. All right, you always got to plan for the future. I'm not saying fire the guy, but I mean, one Super Bowl in 8 years with the team you got, only 2 AFC championships. Obviously, you only won one of those. You lost the other one to the Patriots last year. I mean, if you're the Steelers, I mean, are you okay with just going to the divisional round year after year and like maybe you get to play in the AFC Championship, but chances are you're going to lose in the divisional round? I mean, are you okay? Are you satisfied with that, given the talent you have on that team right now?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to put him on the hot seat. So are we putting Harbaugh on the hot seat as well?
John Harbaugh?
Yes.
Doesn't make the playoffs? Yeah.
All right, so you want to get rid of John Harbaugh and you're going to get rid of Mike Tomlin, and if you do that, look out for the Browns winning that division.
Tate, you said you didn't want to talk about that on air, dude. I mean, we can scrap the whole Tom Brady thing. We could talk about the Browns. I'm ready for that. Oh, yeah, by the way. All right. Tate has this little master plan. I'm not going to give it away or anything like that, but whenever you're ready to put that on air, I want to be there for it. I'm just saying. All right. But either way, yeah, you have a good coach, but the NFL is about results, okay? And I'm not, like, this isn't.
But he has gotten results. Nothing but results. He is king of results. Playoff berth, divisional wins, AFC Championship games, and a Super Bowl. That is called results.
It's
not making the playoffs, missing the playoffs every year, that's called failing.
See, then this is where the whole culture thing comes, all right? Patriots culture, Steelers culture, Dallas culture. San Francisco really, they got away from all that stuff. I mean, San Francisco was at one time one of the premier franchises in the league. It might look like they're starting to come back to it, but they're not on that level yet anymore. All right, so you got Dallas. You got teams like Dallas. You got teams like Pittsburgh. Teams like New England now. I might be missing. Is there another franchise out there that's pretty much, you know what I'm talking about, like the big
Green
dogs?
Bay?
Green Bay, yeah. All right. Those teams, like those fans, you got to think about, too, the fans. You got to think about what everyone expects, okay? They expect, like, at the very least, making the playoffs, winning your division.
All
very least. All right? Teams like the Bengals, the Chargers, the Buffalo Bills, the Ravens, I mean, they're happy making the playoffs because they don't have that type of culture. These teams right here, you got to go out. You got to win. And not just make it to the playoffs, play in the division round, maybe win. I mean, like I said, Mike Tomlin's only been in the AFC Championship twice. All right? He's 1-1. Like I said, does have a Super Bowl, but I mean, if he did get to the AFC Championship more, maybe I wouldn't be on him. But like I said, he just hasn't gotten to the big time.
But, okay.
Enough. He hasn't to.
Okay, here's the difference, though. You say it would be different and you would have a much better claim if you didn't have a situation where the greatest team, the greatest coach, and some people would even say the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL is playing at that exact same time. Think about you go back to, we're going to go boxing. Joe Frazier won the heavyweight title, and I know this is going way back, and I'm not that old, but I'm just saying. Joe Frazier won the heavyweight title. George Foreman won the great heavyweight title.
Wait, George Foreman, that's the guy with the grills, right?
That's the guy with the grills.
I'm not that young. I'm not.
Oh no, but the reason why they're known, but they're the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers of the boxing world, and the reason why that is because Muhammad Ali was the Patriots. You're looking at a team. They're in the same division as the Patriots, and all they've done is gone to the championship. They've won a Super Bowl. And when you look at teams and you say Green Bay, 4 Super Bowls. Dallas, I think they have 5 Super Bowls. Give me another one. Let's use New England.
Mm-hmm.
New England. How many Super Bowl rings does New England have?
5 right now. Could end up being 6 in 2 weeks.
Wait. So they have 5. They have, what Super Bowl is this they're going to be in?
They're going to be fighting to win their 6th, but I think it's like
no.
10th.
What Super Bowl? What's the name of the Super Bowl? Super Bowl what?
50 something. I lost count
52.
honestly. Yeah.
That means In 52 years, New England has 5 Super Bowls. In 52 years, Dallas has 5. Green Bay has 4. That means, and these are considered perennial, constant championship contending teams. They're winning one a decade. Tomlin's got his one in for this decade.
Yeah, I mean that's where average is coming. Like average a Super Bowl a decade, but I mean the Cowboys
have ruined you guys.
Yeah, Patriots. That's pretty much all I know to be the best in the NFL is the Patriots. But I mean the Cowboys '90s, they owned it. All right, Patriots. Yeah, they do own it now, but I mean, like I said, Mike Tomlin isn't even getting to the AFC Championship consistently.
Well, when you look around and you say you got New England. And you also have you had for in this past 10-year period where you're talking about Tomlin hasn't passed, you got to get through. You got a murderer's row. First off, you got the Baltimore Ravens. Okay. Then you got to get through Baltimore. You got to get through New England. You had to get through the Colts with Peyton Manning. Then you had to get through the Colts with Denver the Denver Broncos with Peyton Manning. So when you figure in all-world Peyton Manning, all-world Tom Brady, and the Ravens just to get to the Super Bowl, the fact that he even has a Super Bowl is amazing. The fact that he's been to multiple AFC Championship games, amazing. And that's my opinion.
I mean, that multiple right there, that's like the bare minimum, only 2. All right, again, I think Mike Tomlin is a great coach, the second best coach in the league, but it's a brutal business. All right, you got to go out. I mean, just like it doesn't matter if the Patriots are out there. All right, you got to go out and like at least consistently make the AFC Championship game if you're not going to go to the Super Bowl. At least, I mean, last 3 years, besides Pittsburgh and New England, I mean, who's really challenged, like been a real true AFC challenging team?
Denver.
Let's see, when did Peyton Manning retire? 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So that third year he won the Super Bowl? Yeah, I'll give him that. They had the all-time defense. Last year, lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. You know what? I might be shooting myself in the foot here. But doesn't matter, all right? Either way, this team, just like I said, I mean, you can't have Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Ben Roethlisberger, all right? Consistent number 2 and number 3 receivers, solid tight ends, and only have 2 AFC championships to show for it. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. Again, you're just building your team to beat the next. So either they didn't have the team that was good enough, and I might just be overvaluing the Steelers right here, or I feel they underachieved in these 8 seasons, I think, since he's been around.
It's just been, and I understand why you kind of look at it that way. The Patriots kind of they're an outlier. And when a lot of times in statistics, when you look at outliers, what you do is you eliminate the high score and the low score. And the high score is the Patriots, and the low score is the Browns. So you eliminate the Browns and you eliminate the Patriots, and you look in the middle. And so you look in the middle, and you say, if you eliminate the Patriots right now and the Browns, who's the gold standard? It's the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, but that's it. I mean, you're the second best team in the AFC. Congrats. I mean,
they are the second best team in the AFC. I would agree with you on that. You're always the bridesmaid. You're sick of. I think you're sick of them being miscongeniality when you think they should be prom queen every year.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The Steelers should be at least prom queen half of the time against the Patriots. I mean, are the Patriots like obviously the Patriots are probably these Patriots teams from 2001 to now probably the greatest run of all time in the NFL.
I got it. I used to think it was the Cowboys run, but what the Patriots are doing is just unheard of.
Yeah, the Patriots right now are the San Antonio Spurs of the NFL. All right, Greg Popovich crossing over a little bit. Greg Popovich has had the Spurs team competing in the top 3 in the West since Duncan got drafted.
How long ago was that? How long ago was that?
96, 97, I think. 90, might have been 98. I don't know. Can't remember exactly.
How many championships do they have?
5, I think.
Are you sure about that?
Almost.
No.
I think it's 5. It's 5 or 4.
Okay, so they have 4 in since 89 or 90.
98.
98. Okay, 98.
That's just one off of the Patriots from
So
2001.
So 4 and 20 years, and that's an outlier. So, like I said, one every 10 years is about right.
You can't just. This isn't an average. It's like this is a now argument. All right, like I said, I mean it's cool. I'm not expecting the Steelers go to the Super Bowl every year or anything like that. That's how do you say unreasonable? I think that's the word. All right, but
Or not realistic.
unrealistic. There, that's the word I was looking for. Okay, but I mean, like I said, win prom queen half of the time. You don't even have to win the Super Bowl. Go to the Super Bowl.
At least be homecoming queen,
Yeah,
right?
do something.
That's what you're saying.
I mean,
I say they have been homecoming because they've gotten to be prom queen once, and then they've been able to be in the court, in the prom queen's court a couple of times.
I don't know. Like even if we're talking about that, I mean, the Steelers have basically been the best man at everyone's wedding except for theirs. They haven't gotten married. I mean, they did once, but it didn't work out. Now they haven't gone back to it. They just pretty much been the best man every time.
Can I change the subject just a little bit?
Yeah,
this
go
was
ahead.
not on the docket, but it just popped in my head, and it's still stick with the Steelers. Did James Harrison make the right decision going to New England?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you're a Steelers fan and you're mad about it, I'm not trying. I love my listeners, but you got to get over it, man.
Sorry about your luck. Matter of fact, I live in an area where Pittsburgh and the Cleveland Browns are the local team, and they were showing people barbecuing James Harrison jerseys. They were just sticking them in the grill and putting lighter fluid and burning them up. And James Harrison is probably looking at those people saying, Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. I have a show, I think the week after he got cut or whatever, talking just one segment, just talking about that whole situation. It was hilarious. Marquise Pouncey, well, James Harrison ruined his Steelers legacy. Marquise Pouncey, you don't even have a Steelers legacy.
At all.
Yeah.
Your legacy is, I've been an all-world defensive player, and I've been saying all-world too much. I've been a top-flight NFL defensive player, and I am going to the Super Bowl again.
Yeah. Like, Mike, dude, you guys weren't even playing James Harrison. James Harrison said that, I remember because it was from his Instagram post too, and that's one thing I like about the leagues going forward. They're getting younger, starting to get more individual. Like I said, that's a topic for a different day, but James Harrison was saying that Mike Tomlin, like James Harrison wouldn't get too many first-team reps in practice. Mike Tomlin would tell him, we already know what you bring. Don't worry, you'll be out there. Obviously, Mike Tomlin was lying. James Harrison only got 40 total snaps with the Steelers all season long, all right?
That's why he was sleeping in practice because in the meetings because he wasn't going to be able to play anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and then James Harrison all year, like let this be known, he said that he was asking for his release all year. Steelers wouldn't do it. They wouldn't get rid of him. I don't know why. I mean, if you're not planning on playing the guy, then, and obviously he brings no value to your team, cut him. But nonetheless, they didn't until week 15, I think it was. You cut him. He goes to the Patriots. What did you guys expect? Where did you guys think he was going to go?
Well, and not only that, okay, how are you going to get mad at James Harrison when it's like, oh, you're on our team and we're not going to play you. You're not a factor on the team, and we have no plans in the future of using you. But the Patriots are like, hey, come here and you'll be a pivotal part of our team.
And he has. I think he had,
matter of fact, he had a pretty big play in this game here.
Yeah, he sacked Blake Bortles. I think it might have been two, but it was one for sure. That play you're talking about where he's producing for the Patriots.
You could even make a case in a weird roundabout way is that he was a direct factor on the reason why they won the game, because a couple of plays that he rushed Bortles, and he had a couple of spectacular plays that actually helped New England keep the game going and stop them from moving the chains. He had a major part, where in Pittsburgh he would have been just sitting there on the sidelines saying, let's go team. By the way, I got really big arms.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what? He wouldn't even been at the Super Bowl. He would have been watching Jacksonville play the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. All right? Like, no one got bad when he went to Cincinnati.
No.
No one. You guys don't even remember. Like, no one. I don't like James Harrison going to Cincinnati. That's kind of weird if you think. That's like one of those like things in sports where, oh wait, he played for him. It's like, didn't Hakeem Olajuwon in the NBA play for the Toronto Raptors? Like,
And,
that
and
happens.
not only that, here's back to my Alliance, Ohio grow up area. I grew up in Alliance, Ohio. Pittsburgh and Cleveland are the local teams, and then the team that everyone really hates and is that their ugly step cousin is the Cincinnati Bengals, which is down the highway a piece.
Yeah.
No one really wants to hang out with the Bengals, but yes, we're related to them, but no one really likes them. So the fact that he went to the Bengals, he's already made that trip. He went to a divisional rival, and no one said anything. With this one, hey, he was nice enough to lead the division.
Yeah, I mean, did you guys just want James Harrison and going back to this whole Mike Tomlin 8 years, you want James Harrison to sit on your team and get his butt kicked by the Patriots, or you just gonna not play him and let him leave? I mean, James Harrison made the right decision through and through, 10 times out of 10. Lock it down. He made the exact right decision. If I'm the Steelers, players, front office, whatever, how do you not, like, everyone in the world, people who don't watch football knew, oh, James Harrison's going to the Patriots. Definitely, like, I don't know.
Well, and you know what? And if he didn't go to the Patriots, he probably should have went to the Ravens. You know, but if you're thinking about where was he going to land, it was probably going to be either the Patriots or the Ravens. Those are the only two spots I would even think about putting him on.
Yeah, I can utilize him. I mean, Bill Belichick, I mean, he knows, he could throw me. Bill Belichick could have me play receiver or whatever. I think I might be able to produce a tiny bit because it's Bill Belichick. I might be overselling my athletic ability from high school, but I mean, it's Bill Belichick. So, like, he knew what to do with James Harrison.
And, you know, I think what they were thinking is like, you know what? We're going to cut him. He's going to go back to Cincinnati, and we won't have to worry about him anymore. But he was like, surprise, I'm going to New England.
I mean, they were half right. They didn't have to worry about him because they got bounced by the Jaguars. But
yes.
So, yeah, that whole James Harrison thing, yeah, definitely right decision. Bad decision by the Steelers. But, I mean, James Harrison's playing the Super Bowl. Good for him.
And I know this wasn't on your docket, so I apologize for changing it. But I had to ask that question.
Like I said, GSMC football podcast, we pivot, we talk everything, all right? We referenced the basketball twice in this show, all right? We do it all here, all right? By the way, it reminds me, you want to go to a podcast where we talk about everything? That's the GSMC Sports Podcast. That's Tuesdays through Fridays, so check that out, too. I'm on that one, too. All right, but now we're talking about the Patriots a little bit. Now we could go from Mike Tomlin to James Harrison to Tom Brady. Is he the greatest quarterback of all time? All right, so before I even get into it, this is how I rate players for all sports. I do not really take rings into account, all right? For me, it's a team sport, all right? LeBron James can't win rings on his own. The greatest franchise of all time in the NBA, Boston Celtics. Greatest franchise in all time in the NFL
Whoa, what did you say?
Oh, yeah. Tate's a Lakers fan, but let me repeat that.
Oh, excuse me.
The Boston Celtics are the greatest franchise of all time in the NBA.
We will have this conversation at a later date.
Oh, come on the sports podcast tomorrow. We could do that. That could be our fourth segment for the sports podcast. All right, but like I said, I mean, rings, that's a team stat. I understand quarterback plays a big part, but it's not Tom Brady versus whoever they're playing. It's the New England Patriots versus the Philadelphia Eagles, okay? And I'm not saying that Tom Brady is overrated by any means. No, best quarterback of my generation by far. Let me put that out there, all right? Tom Brady, by far, the greatest quarterback I've seen. Ooh, you know what? I might. No, there's a different guy.
Wait a minute.
There's a different guy. There's a certain guy. He goes by the name of Peyton Manning.
I was just looking at you.
Yeah, I jumped the gun. All right.
Did we go on a break yet? Or did we go on a break, or did we going to say it on here?
We're going to do it on here. Usually the show's only 4 segments.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, yeah. So, so you know what? I jumped the gun. Tom Brady, great quarterback, but the second greatest quarterback of my generation. All right? Let me tell you something. All right, I talked about it a couple podcasts ago. We're talking about Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. In soccer, there's Lionel Messi playing for Barcelona. There's Cristiano Ronaldo. Lionel Messi, everyone knew from the start. He was talented. Everyone knew what he'd be. All right? Pretty much one of those guys where you could sit out for 2 years. He's going to be great when he comes back. The best. Sort of like Jordan when he left to play baseball. Came back, still the best. All right? And that's a different conversation. I see you looking at me there. All right. But like I said, Cristiano Ronaldo, guy who had to develop into becoming what he is now. Had to develop, didn't have the talent that he has now. That's Tom Brady. Lionel Messi's Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning has all the stats, all right, all the talent. By far, if you're not looking at rings, all right, there's no way you could say that Tom Brady's better than Peyton Manning. All right. And you know what? There's a quarterback that doesn't get his due because he never won a Super Bowl. All right, and I think he's better than Tom Brady too. All right, that's Dan Marino. Okay, like I said, love Tom Brady, great quarterback, but Dan Marino was ahead of his time. Let me tell you, Dan Marino plays in this era, Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl. Give the guy a defense or a running back then in the 80s, and he's beating Joe Montana's butt every time.
All right, and let me jump in real quick.
No, go ahead.
I apologize for jumping in. First off, I have to take a knee. I got a little misty-eyed listening to you because you sound like me for the last few years. I'll give you my top quarterbacks. All right, so I have number 4. I have it being a dogfight between John Elway, Jim Kelly. Yes, and I put Jim Kelly in there, and then a few other guys. It's a tight little fit in there.
Yeah.
Number 3, I would have Johnny Unitas as number 3. Johnny Unitas, talking about a guy ahead of his time. You just got to go to YouTube. You got to go to NFL films. But Johnny Unitas was the truth. Number 2 is the most talented quarterback in the history of the NFL in Dan Marino. There's never been a quarterback with more talent. And my number 1 quarterback that I've had was Peyton Manning, who was the smartest quarterback in the history of the NFL. And that has been my list for years. But I can't lie to you. Last year's Super Bowl, it changed everything for me. That list has been scrapped.
So what's your new list then?
My new list. Unitas is 4. As much as I hate to say this, Dan Marino is 3. And it's gonna breaks my heart. But Peyton Manning is 2. Tom Brady is 1. And let me show you how deep the hatred for Tom Brady goes. I am a Michigan Wolverine fan. Huge Michigan Wolverine fan. Did not like Tom Brady at Michigan. I thought Drew Henson was a way better quarterback than him. I wanted Drew Henson. Did not want anything to do with Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I really, really like Drew Bledsoe. Didn't want to have anything to do with Tom Brady. Despise the fact, I'm a Cowboys fan, and despise the fact that people say that New England is the true America's team. Everything about New England, I don't like. And I don't like Boston sports in general. The Celtics, the Bruins, Boston, the Red Sox, and New England Patriots, especially Tom Brady. Despise them all. But when you look at the numbers, and also I don't like Bill Belichick, and I thought he failed miserably in Cleveland. But when I look at the numbers, I gotta say Uncle, and I gotta put Brady at number 1 all time, and I put Belichick at number 1 all time at coach.
So why are you putting Brady? You're putting at number 1. Is it because of the rings and numbers, or is it why? Why is the biggest reason?
The Jacksonville Jaguar game this past weekend. Peyton Manning is a smarter guy. Dan Marino, way more talented. But when the chips are down and the pressure's on, nobody performs better during crunch time than him. And I agree with you. Super Bowl rings is a team stat, and it's a bunch of crap that people just say, "Oh, Marino doesn't have a ring, so he's out. He's not considered."
Oh, yeah.
Jim Kelly. He four Super Bowls in a row, but he didn't win it all, so no one cares.
Try and tell me that Joe Montana is better than Dan Marino. Tell me the
He's
guy.
not. He's not.
Try and tell me the guy who had Jerry Rice is.
But when I look around and I see year after year, decade after decade, that the chips are down and you need that one play, he seems to keep making those plays. When there has been Super Bowl after Super Bowl where his play on the field has actually turned the game around. Like even this Jacksonville game, a couple of those completions, the completion at the end of the first half, that touchdown to Danny Amendola back there, they were covered and covered well. But he put that ball right where no one else could get it. He rises to the occasion every single time. I can't believe I'm talking about my arch enemy this way, but it's true. It's not the championships that he's won. It's being down by 20 to Atlanta and still staying calm and still bringing the ball down, marching down the field, or looking at a game and being like, oh, they just gone ahead for the goal. Pittsburgh's going with the go-ahead touchdown, and there's only 40 seconds left in the game, or Baltimore, and there's only 30 seconds left in the game, and you look at the clock and you're like, crap, you left 30 seconds on the field. It's over. Brady's going to win. That's why.
All right, that's a good argument right there, right?
And I hate Brady, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I have my differences with Tom Brady, too. I've learned to come and respect Tom Brady. Like I said, even with LeBron James in the NBA, big-time Celtics fan, but he dominates, so I got to respect it. I got to enjoy it while it's here, all right? Tom Brady, great quarterback. For me, third best all time. There's a part of me that thinks, what would Brady be if Bill Belichick wasn't there? What would he be?
Not starting, probably.
Yeah, all right. I mean, do we think, honestly, and again, Brady, he's already done it all. He's got numbers and all that, but what would he be? You tell me this. Tell me that you think that Tom Brady, and I'm talking to you specifically, Tate, I'm talking to the fans out there too that listen to the show, but tell me that you think that Tom Brady would be who he is without Bill Belichick. Newsflash, he wouldn't. All right, you're going to tell me the guy, the coach, who you could have, all right, you got Deion Lewis. He could get hurt. Throw James White out there. It works. Gronk gets hurt. Throw Danny Amendola in there. It works great. All right? Anyone who goes down. Belichick has someone who comes in and fills that spot just the same or even just as good.
Here's my only thing about this is I remember the Patriots before Brady. First off, Brady we're not saying he wouldn't be starting. Belichick saw something in Brady that no one else did. That's why he got drafted so low. Belichick, who had an all-world quarterback in Drew Bledsoe, the reason why I say not starting is because most coaches would have said Bledsoe's back, Bledsoe's our starter, because he had the huge contract and Brady was just a nobody. But the one thing I will have to say is, even when he was younger, Brady has this ability to make the big move when pressure is at its peak. And for years, I've always had him outside of my top 5. But the fact that at the end of his career, he's gotten his best numbers have been after the age of 38, 37, 38, where everyone else, and that includes Staubach and Bradshaw and all the other guys back in the days, you look at their numbers, if they had numbers when they were 37 and 38, they were going down. Brady's numbers are still going up. He won a Super Bowl last year because of him, with Gronk out, and he's in the Super Bowl again. And that's the reason why I had to put him in my top, at the top.
Yeah. You know what? I understand that. Everyone's got their own list. But, I mean, like, general consensus as far as what everyone else thinks, generally, I mean, if you think about it, Dan Marino gets one Super Bowl. Everyone thinks he's the greatest quarterback of all time. That's literally, every time I try to talk to someone about Dan Marino, but he doesn't have any rings, so.
Marino's awesome. Go back and look at what Marino did. There's never been a more talented quarterback ever.
Literally ahead of his time. All right. I know I wasn't around for that. I was born in 96, but we got YouTube. All right. We got highlights, all that good stuff. I know what Dan Marino did.
Dan Marino and Warren Moon are two of the most talented quarterbacks I've ever seen.
Yeah. So, yeah, like Dan Marino, I'll put him at number 2. Peyton Manning, I'm putting at number 1 because, like Tate said, the smartest quarterback of all time. Plus, he's got that all-time talent. He's got that all-time talent. Peyton Manning had me playing Madden, just hitting the square button and hitting a bunch of buttons after that, just trying to audible, just because Peyton Manning did it. I mean, there was never a play. Like, Peyton Manning knew everything. Whatever the defense was doing, he knew. All right, so that counts for something there. That's why I got Manning at number 1, Marino at number 2, and then Brady at number 3. If Brady, eventually you know what? I'm going to stick to my list, all right? Brady goes out, puts another all-time performance against this Eagles defense. I'll probably move him up ahead of Marino, maybe against Manning. But I know, as of right now, the dude's already got 5 Super Bowls. So, if I was going to have him up there, I probably would already. But I don't. Like I said, I got Manning, Marino, and then Brady. All right? So now that we've talked about all that, this is like a special edition show right here. Usually you guys know the show goes for about an hour and 5 minutes, usually at the most. But we're almost at the 2-hour mark. And you know what? As sad as it is, as enjoyable as this podcast has been, it's time to wrap things up. All right. So yeah, first segment, what did we talk? I forgot, man. We talked about so much stuff in this show. We talked about so many things.
We talked about the Patriots and Jacksonville, and then we rolled right into that Minnesota-Philadelphia game.
And then we talked Keenum, we talked Bridgewater, we talked Bradford, Smith, Bortles, Manning for that third segment, and then this fourth segment is just, like I said, fourth segment is always the funnest to do, because we could talk about whatever it is. All right, we talked about James Harrison, Mike Tomlin on the hot seat, whether he should be. We talked about our top 3 quarterbacks. Tate has Brady at number 1. Then he's got Manning at number 2.
Manning, and it breaks my heart. I don't want Brady at number 1. I despise the fact that he's number 1, but he's number 1. Manning's number 2. Marino's number 3. Unitas is 4.
All right, then I got Manning, Marino, then Brady. But if Brady puts up 300 and some yards against the Eagles defense, throws for 3 touchdowns, lights him up, he might move up. Probably will, but I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. So that's going to wrap it up for the GSMC football podcast. I want to thank Tate for coming on the show. I would tell you, if you were a normal guest, you could come on. You're more than welcome to come on whenever, but you're the boss. So, you pretty much just let me know when you're going to be on. So, yeah, thanks, Tate, for being on the show. As always, I'm your host, Jesse Tapia. Even with this nearly 2-hour show, we're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to be talking about a bunch of stuff, all right? We'll be doing that. So, like I said, stay tuned for tomorrow. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.